Noon, everybody. I am here in beautiful Palm Desert, as always. You're getting a shot of the pool behind me because I'm doing an evening, late afternoon live broadcast today. And what I want to talk to you about is discipline and the discipline that it takes to actually become successful in almost anything that you do. And in investing, trading and investing in particular, you have to maintain a level of discipline that is above and beyond what the average person probably has to be able to do on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So what I want to talk to you today about, what I want to talk to you about today is how I came to have this discipline. And there's a couple of different ways. So let's go ahead and talk about the three ways that we attain discipline and control our emotion and build our EQ mastery when it comes to investing and trading and almost anything that we do in life. The first thing that you can do to build on your EQ mastery, right? Take better control of your emotions and become more disciplined is expand your knowledge base. So, in anything that you're doing in life, when you have a greater understanding of how it works, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you're going to be an auto mechanic, if you're going to be a body mechanic, if you're going to build houses, if you're going to become an appliance repairman, if you are going to sell cars, whatever you're going to do, the best thing you can do for yourself, or one of the best things you can do for yourself, is educate yourself. So we're going to discuss that a little bit and why that's so effective. The second thing that we can do is learn to calm our spirit, learn to calm our mind. Now, that sounds really easy. And most people out there know the last thing you want to do if someone is acting emotionally is tell them to calm down. Why? They're gonna flip out. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I would never give you that advice. But what are some ways that you can calm down? What are some ways that you can control what's going on upstairs that don't involve educating yourself on the subject? Well, meditation is a great one. Meditation allows you to clear the mind. I had a conversation today with a good friend of mine whose wife will meditate for 4 hours at a time. That's a marathon to me. That is a marathon. I don't do that, but 20 minutes in the morning is quite effective. And he thinks that you need to breach that hour and a half mark for the meditation to be effective. What meditating allows you to do is recenter yourself. So this is a tool we can utilize. And there are a lot of like quote unquote spiritual tools or new age medicine tools that will work, right? And meditation is one of them. There's a lot of other ways that like Reiki healing, reduces trauma, I suppose, by removing trauma from the body. You can change your diet. So your diet has an overall effect on the trauma that's stored within you that creates all this mental unclarity, right? So each organ sort of holds on to a different response, right? So trauma is, I believe that's liver. I believe that's liver is trauma, unhealed trauma. And they all have depression, lungs, or guilt or sadness or unresolved sadness, I believe is lungs. I can go through these with you and we will. However, today I am going to talk a little bit more about meditation, but there's a lot of things that you can do to calm the mind. Now, what is something else that you can do? Something that I held sacred from a very, very young age, and that is some form of athletics. So when I was growing up, I was a wrestler, and I was a very good wrestler in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I actually went 4 years without losing a section match. Like that, there's your Al Bundy statement for everybody out there. But what did wrestling teach you about discipline, perseverance, patience? And why do I enjoy those activities, those physical activities? I know jiu-jitsu is a big thing now that people are doing. Muay Thai. I think mixed martial arts in general has sort of taken off. And if we can instill those properties younger, obviously it's easier to learn and easier to master the younger you start these things. So let's talk about those three things, right? So expanding our knowledge base. Today, we're going to talk a bit about meditation, and then let's talk a little bit about the physical activities that, at least in my life, have given me discipline, allowed me to persevere when things are tough. And we'll talk a bit about that. So I'll come at this from my viewpoint, as I always do. So expanding your knowledge base. So let me tell you a little bit about what my life has been and what I've learned. So I started off as your traditional financial advisor, wealth manager, wealth planner, stockbroker. These have a lot of names. They're all holding effectively the same position within the financial industry. So really what you dealt with there was setting up financial plans and asset allocation. Now, to me, as someone who enjoys learning, that wasn't enough. Okay. I wanted to take it a step further. So I got into VSA. That was the very, very first thing I did. That was volume spread analysis. And effectively, what it teaches you how to do is gauge volume and price to tell the story of what goes on in the market. Still, probably my favorite tool, even though I've made quite a few adjustments to what I was ago. My first step, that was where I went. And what I started to notice was to be the playing with emotions of my clients and myself. So I automatically, I'm an emotional guy, right? I just am. That's who I am. I get passionate. You'll notice it in my lives. So I started to realize there was an emotional connection there, and that emotional connection was probably the biggest driver in the market. So I would see these big footprints, and footprints are simply trading activity, which you will define on a chart as volume. That just tells you there's a lot going on. There's only a couple groups of people that can make a lot going on in an index. In individual stocks, and as the stocks get smaller, it doesn't take nearly as much cash. It doesn't take nearly as much volume. It doesn't take as much activity to generate a volume that stands out. But when you're talking about an index, these are the big players in the market, probably international players within the market. So I started to notice that. And then I started to notice that there was an ebb and a flow to the market. And sometimes it looked really messy, and sometimes it looked really smooth. And so that led me into Elliott Wave. So I took myself into Elliott Wave, and I started to learn what Elliott Wave analysis was. Now, what Elliott Wave would teach, or does teach, is that as the market is moving in what you would consider a kind of a smooth manner, this is the actual trend of the market. When the market gets really, really choppy, this is either going to be a correction or a recession. They all have their own wave counts and how they work. And I do happen to love Elliott Wave as well. I use it in what I do. So then I got into Elliott Wave, and then I just kept taking it a step further and a step further. And okay, what do IPOs? How do they come out? How does that work with these large institutions? But I have to tell you, so for 25 years, I worked as a professional wealth manager and also a professional investment advisor and trader. I have to tell you that that's where my focus was. I really enjoyed the investing. I enjoyed learning how and when the market would move, being able to forecast that market. And really, that's how I differentiated myself as an advisor. I built my business while other people's businesses crumbled. I worked in 2007 through 2009. I didn't really have to prospect after that, because what I had learned protected me from that down market. So it built my business for me. It also changed the way that I spoke, which differentiated me from the other advisors and the other brokers. It made me different by making myself different. And then that just kind of progressed, by the way. Like, it just kept progressing, and I became more and more different, which is why I only worked for Wall Street firms up until 2008, mid 2008. And that was when I left and I went out on my own. I was so different at that point. I didn't sound anything like them. I wasn't doing what they were doing. I wasn't setting up the asset allocation. And for me, it built my career. It really did build my career. So it did a lot of things for me, that learning. And what that learning also did for me is when 2008 and 2009 was occurring, I can tell you that from the highest levels, two of my good friends were CFAs. They were in my office every day. I was calm because I could see what was happening. They were not calm. They were in, one of them was a huge sector rotation guy, and the other basically ran an asset allocation model where he would lean more into cash and a little out of cash. But in that scenario, if you're just leaning into cash, and I think his max cash was 20%, you're still getting torched. And so we would talk every morning and they would come in and talk to me. I had a different view than they had. And as intelligent guys, the only guys that are CFAs are very, very, very intelligent. But they were taught how to see things, and that's the way they saw it, and I saw it differently. So it did help to build my business. And so as good as I got with all of that, I can tell you up until about 2 years ago, I didn't understand that bottom structure. There's effectively three groups at play if you're just gonna minimize this down to its core. And the bottom group are the market makers. These are the people that create the transactions. I didn't understand how they worked. I didn't understand the influence they had. I didn't understand how they hedge their hedge. Like they're hedging everything and they're constantly flowing. And that's why the market had these flows. And it also showed me where ranges came from. It started to put all these pieces together. So 23 years, 21 years into this profession, and an outstanding investment advisor and trader for 15 of those years. I would say the other, while you're learning, it took me a decade to be what I would call good in front of the computer, 60 to 80 hours a week. I would say it took about a decade, but the next, 13 years, I was excellent. I didn't even know how a whole piece of the market moved. And to be fair, to be honest, full transparency, I didn't really know they existed. Not in their function. I didn't. I thought there was the two top layers. And now that I understand that, there's even more peace when I come into a market situation that if the market's going against me or I don't understand why something's happening, I can add another layer in there and I go, oh. So I encourage everybody, whatever you're doing in life, for me, I think, and I did this seminar for years, your health, your wealth. Your health, meaning your physical and mental health, your wealth, meaning your financial health. These two things, if you can get those in sync, what a life you'll have. And I've always seen it that way because I know some of the biggest drivers of divorce, of stress, suicide, depression, mental health issues is finances. And that's the one thing that drives me every day. So when I'm all right, I got it, I'm taken care of, I know what I'm doing. You want to go like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You just don't know any better. And you see, and I see that on a daily basis. But let me tell you something. There's plenty of people that do know and they do care and they see this enough and they want to do something about it. And so you change lives, folks. This is not just about money and dollars and adding up zeros. You change lives. And the more education I added, the easier the job got and the less emotional responses I had. All right, let's jump into number 2. Spiritual methods. Meditation. Why does meditation seem to work so well? I have no idea, but I have to tell you that it does. When I first started, I had to do just box breathing, 4. So you inhale 4, pause 4, exhale 4, pause 4, and you go around. It's just box breathing. It's very basic. I would have to do that when I meditated because I couldn't clear my head. I didn't even know what clear head meant. When you tell someone who's never done it before, don't think about anything, what's the first thing they're going to do? Everybody in the back, think about everything. Of course. And that's why grasping that skill is so important. When you have the ability to flush your mind, even for an hour a day, especially if you're going through something intense, if you can just clear for an hour, you can come back to a baseline that can change your life. Now, there's people like my friend today and his wife that do, marathons. As far as I'm concerned, they have all sorts of visualizations that occur. Things will come to them in their meditation that will then occur in their day-to-day life, which that blows my mind. I've never had anything like that. I have certainly had very strong physical sensations. I have had mental clarity without a doubt, but I have not reached the level where, with my mind clear, something enters and then it actually happens. And, in talking with him today, he says it takes an hour and a half. I've never tried to go that long. I think tomorrow morning I am. I think I'm going to try. Why? Because I educate myself consistently, and I'm learning right now about that base layer, and I'm learning every single week. And I'm learning now. I've learned about meditation. I've heard about meditation. I've done meditation 20 minutes at a time, but I guess I've never reached that peak level that I guess the real magic, because I feel like just clearing my head for 30 minutes is magic. But apparently there's more magic. So I'm working on it. But I can tell you this. If you have anything that you're doing, whether taking a hike in the woods maybe is for you, maybe going for a swim is for you, whatever it is that just clears that mind and creates a little silence, it's life changing. And that is a discipline. Being able to learn something new on a daily basis or a weekly basis, that is discipline. Being able to learn something that maybe you don't even believe in necessarily, but you just want to find out, that is a discipline. And I'm on that walk now. And I'll tell you how it's going. And finally, the third, physical exercise, physical movements. I can tell you that growing up as a wrestler changed me as a person. Okay, so why did I choose wrestling over everything else? I grew up in Pennsylvania, so okay, it is a mecca for wrestling, more so the eastern part of Pennsylvania, and I'm from the western part of Pennsylvania, but still a very, very, very big sport in Pennsylvania. But football, probably decidedly bigger. I mean, the high school that bordered my high school, the next high school over, Aliquippa, is where many, many of my friends are from. Shout out to Aliquippa and Hopewell. It's Mike Ditka Stadium. That's where Mike Ditka went to high school. The stadium there is Mike Ditka Stadium. So you can imagine what football's like. So why did I choose wrestling? Well, I chose it for two reasons. The first reason, it's all on you. You train, and then you go out on that mat, or hopefully you go out on that mat. On my team, there was always a first string and a second string, and typically a third. So you had to beat the other two guys to be the wrestler that week. And they challenged you every week. So every week you'd have a couple of matches before you were the guy that was starting in the next section match. But it was on you. So you would train all week. You went out there, and there was no, oh, but he did this, or but he did that. I never liked that myself. I always wanted to know that if I pushed myself to the max and I deserved it, I could win. So that's why I chose wrestling, because there's a second piece of wrestling, and that's the team. You are a team. You win and lose as a team. So you win and lose individually, and then you win and lose as a team. And I always thought that the winning and losing as a team kind of made us try to help each other more, right? When I was better than someone, and excuse me, especially coming into high school, when I would wrestle, I never beat up on the smaller guys in a way that didn't allow them to learn, right? What I'd always tried to do was make them better. I would show them where I left a hole, tell them to move here, do this, do that. Right? Switch your hips. And that's what I did. And so as you're teaching, you're learning. But the reason I felt above and beyond the fact that it is all on you, aside from the team winning or losing, I thought you were in more pressure-filled situations than anyone else you could ever really be in life outside of that particular sport. Someone's grinding away, beating on you, and you can't breathe, and you're exhausted. And hopefully you did the work, that you have the cardio, but you're hurting. And not only do you have to stay calm, you have to think, what micro movements can I make? What adjustments can I make? Not just to get out of this situation, but to capitalize on this situation. This is the same mind frame that you have to use when you're investing or trading or setting up your financial plan if you're in a financial rough spot. These things that you're doing when you're physically being destroyed, you're physically pinned down by somebody. This person is hurting you, and you have to think. And it set me up for the rest of my life. And also, it taught you to never quit. There is no quitting. You do not quit if you're a wrestler. It is against your nature. It's not in your blood. You don't quit. Now, That's a good and a bad thing. But for now, we're going to use it as a good thing because sometimes you do need to quit and you need to pivot. You need to stop what you're doing and pivot into something else. And a wrestler's mindset will tend to go, I'm going to knock that wall down anyway. Sometimes it's not the right move. But for this conversation about discipline, so it's more relevant than it's positive, is what I'm getting at. And so, what I would say to you today, if you're not doing all three of these things, do start learning something new, a language. Start learning a language. Start learning how to play guitar. Start learning more about your business if that's what you want to do. If you're not doing anything that spiritually enhances you, take a walk, ride a bike, go for a swim, take a car ride, whatever it is for you. And if you're not doing anything physically, listen, please do something that pushes you 3 days a week. Push yourself 3 days a week to where you feel you should break, but you don't. You do that a few weeks in a row, and I promise you, confidence is going to shoot through the roof. Discipline just does shoot through the roof because that's a disciplined action. All three of these things are disciplined actions, and you just become a better person. You become a better person at everything you do in life. And so as a parent, I want to instill these things into my kids. And so I work at these things each day. I mean, I'm a human being too, to the best of my ability. But as a parent, as I see it, what it's done for me, and I see that I still work on it every day at 45 years old, I know it's better to start them young. But also, the last piece, the wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever you're doing, be careful. Make sure that you know the instructor. You're aware that they're being safe. Accidents do happen. There's nothing you can do about that. But be cautious. There's a lot of guys out there now saying that they're experts at what they do and experts on the mat. And believe you me, they're not. Okay, so I'm going to finish up now. I can't tell how long I've gone because the light is in my eye, and I do this alone in the natural light, obviously. But I want to thank you so much for joining me. And as always, for anyone out there that may be struggling with any mental health issues, whether it's depression, sadness, anxiety, it will get better. Stay positive. Do something fun. Make yourself smile. Tomorrow is another day. It will be a good day. I promise you, this too shall pass. Thank you all so much, and I will see you again soon.